So today we're going to talk about Black Widow. Now we're going to go over both the trailer number 1 that came out, I believe, a couple weeks ago, and then we're going to go over the special look that came out, I think last week or the week before. Now it's important to cover both because I want to. So without further ado, we're going to get started. So trailer number 1, I think they opened it kind of weak. Not only did they recycle her monologue from, I believe, Avengers Endgame, but they also recycled footage from various movies. Okay. Movie kind of comes out of nowhere. So, and this is, I think this is general opinion, honestly. I don't even think this is just my opinion, but this movie is very poorly timed. Considering the events of Avengers Endgame, it just seems kind of like weird to time it out now. If they were really set on doing a Black Widow solo movie, which I honestly don't think she needs a solo movie, but here we are. If they were really just set on doing a solo Black Widow movie, what they should have done, especially was when this takes place within the MCU, they should have done it, released it immediately following Civil War. So I think the movie is still going to do really well. But I think it would have done a lot better had it been released after Civil War. Just because timing-wise and story-wise, that makes a bit more sense. And we'll go into potential theories on how this movie could end and maybe explain a little bit why it's being released the way it is in this current time. But we'll get to that a little bit later. So moving on from that, within the context of the MCU, it just seems kind of weird for her to now be going after the organization. And if you're not sure exactly what I'm talking about, in Avengers Age of Ultron, she kind of explains how the Red Room, right, her visions of being a ballerina and being trained as an assassin, all that was in an organization supposedly called the Red Room, which is what trained her, like I just said, to be an assassin. So it just seems kind of weird to wait till the timing of Civil War to then turn back and try to hunt down the organization and stop them. I don't know. To me, it sounds kind of weird, but we don't know enough about her past to necessarily know, like, maybe this is just members that got away from the first time it crumbled and now they're bringing it back. Like, we don't have enough context on what's happening. And that's part of why I don't think she really needed a solo movie to begin with, because she was introduced and she was treated as a support character. She is one of the main Avengers in the MCU, but she's not treated like one. She's treated like a support character. So it's just kind of funky, you know. All of those things just kind of make it feel kind of weird. Yes. So, Red Guardian. So this dude by himself is going to sell tickets. If you're not sure who I'm talking about, the guy that David Harbour from Stranger Things, the guy he's playing is named Red Guardian. Now, again, I'm not going to act like I know what I'm talking about because I don't. I don't know anything in terms of comic books about this character. If you want to learn some more, check out Comics Explained on YouTube, and he has a video going over it. Apparently, this character didn't even exist in comics that for very long. Like, we're talking a couple of issues maybe, and he didn't do anything significant while he was on screen. So go check out Comics Explained, and he can explain way better than I can what the Red Guardian character is. And like I said, David Harbour, the fact that they got him to play Red Guardian, that alone is going to sell some tickets. So, I mean, I like him too, so I'm going to go see it for him mostly. So in her little monologue, she talks about not having a family, but her family presumably is the one helping her in this movie. I think that's kind of weird. I don't know, just weird monologue choice, especially. Like, they could have opened the movie or the trailer with a different kind of dialogue. It just seems weird that her family is such a, like, what seems to be such a pivotal point of this movie, but they opened the trailer with that monologue where she's talking about how she didn't have a family until the Avengers. It just seems like, again, I don't like how it's recycled. I don't think it was good creative choice, and I just think it's kind of weird. Especially since, again, we know what happened to her in Endgame, so, I mean, again, it's still very just weird, right? So moving on, Taskmaster and the enemy troops. Oof. If you're friends with me on Facebook and you've seen it before, I might even post it again. But Taskmaster looks pretty bad. His comic book counterpart, he wears the skull mask, which I think they tried to adapt with this movie. It's kind of hard to tell. And then he's mostly white, so he's got a white cape, he's got, his blue armor going on and white boots and some other stuff. He just looks kind of funky. He just looks really, really goofy. The picture I made was him side by side with, I believe, Lord Zeb. I could be wrong on his name, from the Power Rangers, the visor dude from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I believe they're called the Super Cobras or something to that nature, the enhanced Cobra soldiers from G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra. That's what he looks like. He looks pretty funky, and I'm not a fan. I'm not sold. And the enemy troops that are pursuing Black Widow towards the end of the trailer when they're parachuting, they look just like that too, and it's just kind of funky. Like, it's not a great design, and it's not original either. Like, even down to their body armor almost looks exactly like the G.I. Joe soldiers. So I'm not crazy about that. That's going to wrap it up for trailer number 1. So if we look at Black Widow's special look, a lot of the footage is recycled. As a special look, it doesn't offer that much. Primarily, the footage just shows off more of her family members and a couple action spots, really. And then the other thing they did was they kind of went out of their way to show Taskmaster a little bit more. Maybe they saw some comments about how he looks, and they wanted to show some other perspectives and, different shots of him. In one of the shots, we can see he's got the hood. It doesn't look like he has the cape, which, okay, I guess. I'd rather go, if you're gonna go adapt a character, you might as well go for like all the accuracy in their appearance. I mean, if you take some elements of it, at least make it make sense on why you're not adapting all of it, because it's true, not everything adapts from the comics very well, but at least, there's no reason why he shouldn't have a cape. So it's just one of those little minor things I'm being kind of a stickler about. But the other things that we can tell about his character, at least they're trying to stick to the nature of his character. So I gotta word this right, he can solo the Avengers as long as none of the super powered characters are there. So if he's fighting Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, I think even Iron Man, if he's fighting them together and somebody like Thor or the Hulk isn't there, he can almost solo the team, because what he does, what his abilities are, is he can mimic and copy what people do based on watching them. You can see from trailer number 1, I would assume that Taskmaster was involved in Budapest or fought Hawkeye at some point, because I would just assume he would have his archery skills based on how he pulls the bow out when he's sticking out of the van in the first trailer. And to further back that point, it's blatantly shown that he's copying exactly what Black Widow is doing when they kip up at the same time in the exact same movements. So I'm glad they're adapting his abilities from what it seems like. We don't know the extent of what he can do, like if they're going to go full comic version where he's capable of just laying the smackdown. I would love to see that. It almost looks like he's been studying the Avengers kind of in total. It makes sense considering how public the Avengers are in the MCU. You can kind of tell by the way he whips his shield at Black Widow in one of the scenes. It looks like they're fighting on some kind of bridge. And then also around that same kind of time frame-ish, you see him leaping at her with a sword. So the fact that they are drawing the sword and the shield in makes me pretty happy. Like I said, overall with the looks, I'm still not really impressed with like how he's looked, how they've adapted his costume and attire and stuff. But maybe it'll work out with how they use the character. I'm not overly attached, and I don't have a deep knowledge of the character, but I've read some stuff with him, and he's a pretty cool character, so I'd love to see him done justice. There are rumors and theories floating around that he's going to be not a he's going to be a female, and honestly, I'm kind of over that. I don't see the point from a narrative or any kind of perspective, really. Like, if they wanted to do like what they're doing with Captain Marvel and do the whole women empowerment thing, wouldn't you want him to be a male? So when she beats him, it's more of a victory. If you're trying to play the whole, woman empowerment thing, they've already gender bent. We'll look at Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. In the comics, there is a female Ghost, but she's the daughter of the original Ghost, and that's there's some other stuff into that too. with the race bending and gender bending, I'm just not a fan. I don't see the point in it. I mean, do you really need to do that to drive your narrative? It's just kind of dumb. So I'm not a fan of that, and that would kind of tank the character for me if those rumors ended up being true. Again, I think the special look doesn't fix any of the problems with it being weird timing with the movie release and everything like that. And I think maybe, again, like, so I mentioned it earlier about how the ending of this movie might explain why they waited until after Endgame, although I don't put a lot of stock into it. So maybe her sister or one of her other family members potentially could take her place in the Avengers. Like, they're going to use this to explain where this character will come from and how she's going to fit into it, because maybe she learned something from Natasha, or some kind of character exchange like that would explain why they're going to continue to be in the MCU. Otherwise, these characters are just one-shots because they don't matter to anyone else in the MCU, especially considering most of the oldest MCU members, so Captain America, Iron Man, they may come back for roles here and there, but they're not going to stay in the series, so there's no reason to tie them to any of those. And these people are definitely not going to tie in with Captain Marvel. If they did somehow, like you'd have to really explain that one to me. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird again, but maybe one of her family members could take her spot on the Avengers. The other thing I've seen, you can check out Young Ripa 59. He goes over this in his Black Widow movie, his Black Widow trailer / special look videos. He goes over that in current comics. I'm not aware because I don't read current comics. I've said that before, but basically, the current Black Widow in the ongoing series right now is a clone of the original Natasha, or maybe one of the other Black Widows. But maybe that's what they could be potentially doing with this, to bring Scarlett Johansson back, because maybe she's not done with the character. But that would just kind of belittle her actions in Endgame. So I don't know. I think overall, I'm not too hype about this movie. I don't know a lot of people that are. The people that I've talked to that are excited about it are just excited for an entertaining movie, which I hope so. I hope it's not too filled with too much like just weirdness, because when it comes to the MCU, they have built themselves so much that it's kind of hard for them to just release movies, right? Like almost every movie they've released since, I would argue, Avengers has been building to something greater, and that's not going to stop now, especially with how they're trying to set up. Now that they have all the rights from Fox, they can do so much more. They can do so many bigger storylines. So it's like I said, it's kind of hard for them to just do movies. Like even Doctor Strange Into Madness is set to explore the multiverse and the multiverse theorem. So even that one has the foundation to build something greater. So if this movie didn't really do anything to the overall MCU, I would be surprised. And like I said, like her family members or a clone of her would be something to catapult into the bigger MCU, because obviously she's very involved with the Avengers and things like that. But yeah, this movie is just really weird timing, and if it doesn't affect the overall MCU, then it's just going to be like a Mission Impossible movie in the MCU universe, and I'm not exactly sold on that. So yeah, let me know what you think, and see you next time.